All right, I think we're safe to get started. It looks like the attendees jumping in have trailed off a little bit. I'm sure a few folks will continue to join. But anyway, first off, just wanted to thank everybody for joining today to learn a little bit more about secrets governance and dig a little bit deeper into that topic. So my name's Jay Clauser. I'm going to be kind of moderating the discussion today, Director of Solutions Engineering and Tech Alliances at Britive. And just wanted to give both of my esteemed panelists the opportunity to introduce themselves. We'll be talking with John Morton and Dominic Singer. So Dominic, go ahead, and if you wanted to give a quick background on yourself, and then we'll give John a chance as well.
Sure. Yeah, I won't bore you guys with my background, but I'll tell you who I am and what I do. So I am currently the VP of Strategy at Eden Data, and I'm also one of the virtual CISOs. And Eden Data is just a cybersecurity consultancy firm, and we focus on startups. We love the startup community because they're pushing the edge of technology and how to use it in novel ways. And they're focused on that. They don't have time to think about security. So they bring us in to build foundational security programs that meet or exceed compliance requirements. And we help them across the board, right? Not only building that program, but making it scale and grow, leveraging automation integration, focusing on data governance, threat management, threat governance, DevSecOps, that whole thing, but especially identity management, access governance. Big problem, not only for our environment, but especially SMB and large enterprise. And I'm super stoked for you guys to invite me to this conversation and talk about the killer solution you guys are bringing to the marketplace.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I think you'll be a great kind of that voice of the customer to the discussion here. So thank you for joining. We really appreciate having you. And then John Morton, just wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, hey everybody. John Morton here. I will bore you all a little with my background because I think it's cool. You can see Dom's award in the background, but I used to work for the United States Navy, Undersea Research and Development, Submarine Fleet, did a lot of stuff as a defender, United States Navy, Postal Service, Oppenheimer funds, and then became a vendor. Right now, I am the field CTO at Britive, really bridging the gap between what our customers need and what our customers expect from our product to engineering. How do we build that is friendly, adoptable, and great to use with an IAM sort of focus on bringing real security to the cloud. So thank you, Jay. Thank you, Dom.
Perfect. Thank you. And a little bit of housekeeping, I think, before we get into the discussion itself. For the audience and the participants, we're going to kind of keep this right to around 25, 30 minutes. We want to make sure, we got enough time to educate everybody here, but also, know everybody's got a lot going on. So we're going to try to keep this to around 30 minutes, but we also want this to be interactive. So we would love to hear from the audience. Please drop any questions you have into the chat box or any comments, and we'll make sure that we get to those. There will be a couple of polls, so, to keep you alive and awake out there, we're going to put a couple polls your way. So just, if you wouldn't mind contributing where it makes sense, we would appreciate it. As an incentive to engage, we are going to be kind of looking at engagement from the audience here. And so those who do engage, we're going to enter you into a drawing to receive a pair of on-cloud shoes. We're built in the cloud at Britive and built for the cloud, and we want to make sure that that's pervasive across both the technology and apparently the apparel. So looking forward to having everybody kind of join the conversation. So anyway, I think why don't we kind of get started before we really get in. Let's talk about what is one of the major problems with secrets governance and one of the challenges. I think Gartner said it best in one of their reports. Really, the idea of secret sprawl. So this idea that hard-coded secrets. I'll just read this off, right? Hard-coded secrets are being embedded in source code and scattered throughout the DevOps pipeline, and it's posing a significant risk. Technology professionals responsible for DevSecOps really are trying to solve this problem. And really, at Gartner's recommendation, they must introduce tools that securely store and manage secrets and enforce access controls. And this is a key piece, without disrupting the automated DevOps workflows, right? We know that on the security side, whatever we introduce from a security standpoint certainly can't interrupt or get in the way of productivity and revenue in that. And so I thought that was a good way to kind of start the discussion here. But before we actually kind of get your thoughts, both Dom and John, on secret sprawl and some of that, let's actually take a quick poll of the audience. So I'm curious if I just go ahead and launch this poll. Hopefully everybody in the audience should see it. Is secret sprawl a high priority for you right now? We're curious to understand across our audience. Is this something that maybe you're joining today because it piqued your interest and you're just hearing about it now, or is it something that you're starting to really think about? And maybe in some cases you feel like you have solved it. We're just curious, across the board here. So yeah, great participation. It looks like everybody's going for a new pair of running shoes here. So give it just one more second. All right. So let's go ahead and end the poll here, and let's share the results. Looks like hopefully everybody's seeing that. That's great, man. Everybody here kind of at this point at least is understanding secret sprawl, and it looks like almost 70% of the audience here actually it's a high priority, or it's something that they're addressing. So again, thank you everybody for giving your feedback. That really helps us as we frame this discussion and dig into this topic a little bit more. So let's go ahead and kick it off. I mean, I'm just curious, and I'll give obviously both of you a chance to kind of give your thoughts, but kind of we'll start with John. I mean, what do you see? To you, what is secret sprawl? Kind of what are, maybe we should talk about not only what is secret sprawl, but what are secrets? When we talk about secrets, what is that? What does that include? And then maybe if you can just give your thoughts on some associated risks with secret sprawl.
Yeah, maybe this is why we'll kind of answer some of those no's. Secret sprawl isn't a concern, right? So when we talk about secrets, everyone has an inherent bias. And the easiest thing to latch on, depending on the frame of which you look at a secret, is most obviously, to me, is credentials, right? Some sort of username and some sort of password. That qualifies very quickly as a secret. What you start to notice, though, with the shift to the cloud is that's kind of a really limited way to look at it. What also qualifies as secrets is tokens. Tokens are just bundled up authentication. It has who I am and the access I should have, but it is a static secret. If someone has access to an overprivileged token, they can abuse it. Another thing is keys, API keys, RSA private key, right? AWS access keys, Facebook access keys. So API keys generally can be a secret, as well as anything that's static, like a note, just a general note. Anybody uses some sort of tool online, you write notes about how to log into things, that includes all that information. Last piece I would add there is also files themselves, PEM files, certs, things like that can be secrets in what we identify as secret sprawl. So given that, what do you think there, Jay?
No, I think that's some good insight. I mean, what do you see as what are the risks to secret sprawl, right, from your standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot to manage. And at the end of the day, everyone has an objective. And that objective is normally to make money for the business. And unfortunately, and a business can be anything, private sector, public sector, social media, anything in the world can literally has a function to operate some task, and they are measured by metrics. So when we see secret sprawl, it's people are trying to do the right thing, but at what cost? They're doing things like embedding those hard-coded secrets, not because they're not security conscious, but because it's easier to get the job done. Whether that's in an app stack, I'm building apps in AWS, whether that's in logging into a website, I statically store those credentials in my browser to log in. It just gets the job done faster is what we see a lot. And there is no concept of who has access to what secrets, where those secrets live, how they're being used and managed.
Yeah, great. Thanks, John. Dom, I'm curious. I mean, I see you listening in here. What are your thoughts? I mean, as you service your customers and they come to you and say, Dom, I'm trying to solve these difficult problems, when does secret sprawl come up, and how do you approach that from a consultative standpoint with your customers?
Sure. I'm going to dovetail on what John just brought up there. And I just want to give a free piece of advice to everybody. And nobody should be hard coding access keys, secrets anywhere in code. We know it's happening all over the place. And once it happens, we know that it's really hard to pull all that back because now you've built an infrastructure around that. So that's really what we're here to talk about today, is a better way to vault those kind of credentials and to pull those credentials just in time when you need that. So that's really what we're talking about. I also want to put on the table here that my context is going to be not just from our customers, but also I've been in this space a long time. I've played in many different environments, cloud environments, and I'm really want to emphasize a point here. The solution that we're talking about with Britive, yes, it works in our startup environment because we want to put in foundational security, but it is much more relevant for SMBs and large enterprises because you have many more users. You already have a bunch of problems around access management. So I just wanted to point that out. That's a really big challenge. Now, I'm going to come at it from a little bit of a different angle, and this is more about accountability, right? So sure, we can understand that having these secrets inside code is a bad thing. But then how do you track the accountability? And how do you prove to auditors, right? Because you have to show them how are you managing access to your environment. Show me the different ways you're having access allowed into your environment and how are you auditing that and controlling it, so on and so forth, right? So being able to report on that can be extremely hard and cumbersome, let alone the lack of visibility and understanding the exposure that those keys have. And one final piece I'll bring up real quickly, John brought it up. I think customers just don't understand whether you're a startup or whether you're a large enterprise, they don't understand this world of access keys. And they really don't understand the power those access keys have. So another cool thing I think you guys will get into is talking about how you can analyze the use of credentials. And I really think that's extremely powerful inside Britive because you can see where those are being used and then you can start building a game plan around it. So I know it didn't quite answer your question, Jay, but I wanted to put some of that stuff on the table.
Yeah, no, really good. And you kind of said something there, right, that I want to kind of dig a little bit deeper on. You kind of said, hey, they shouldn't do it, right? They being whoever, a developer or a ops person, but they are. And I want to dig into that. Let's talk about some of the reasons why. Why has secret sprawl become an issue, right? Foundationally, where did it start and why is it happening? And I'd love to see if either of you, kind of open it up, whoever wants to jump in. Why do you think it's become such a prevalent problem?
I'll plant a few seeds for John. So, look, I think it's the same thing when we go back years and we look at enterprises when they first started moving into the cloud. What is the cloud? How do we architect in the cloud? Do we leverage the same expertise of our IT people to go and manage a cloud environment? And typically that's how they started. And then the IT people are just doing the best they can to meet those business objectives and those requirements, right? So what do? They roll up their sleeves and they try to figure out how do we get stuff to work? And once they get stuff to work, meaning not only the application, but all the API calls and all the system intercommunication, so on and so forth, they leave it alone. And guess what? Now the company scales and grows out of control. And that to me is where I see the problem. So much more there to go, but John, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? I mean, I remember building applications before, and the problem was as simple as just managing credentials. But as I mentioned, the move to the cloud and the cloud journey has really opened up a whole new avenue for how things are being used, whether it's containerized access, whether it's app stacks, whether it's new, in ways to engage with APIs. And we've moved away from your basic vault story of credentials. And to Dom's point, people that we engage with, they try to retrofit what they know. If I just have a vault, it'll work. And if I asked 10 people at one company, they'd each give me 10 different answers about their vaults they're using. There's no unified method of controlling these secrets, just even understanding who has access to them. So Dom's point, my favorite quote is, our best developer gets hit by the lottery bus. What happens to those secrets when he leaves, right? That's a big problem. Yeah. So what we want to focus on for anybody who's going forward, thinking big picture, is two things. One, how does this fit into the bigger picture of what we're trying to do as an organization? We have KPIs and objectives we're trying to obtain. Where does this fit into the ecosystem of security products we already own? We don't want it to be silos of just builders, developers. We don't want it to be silos of security trying to force this down. We really want to incorporate the rest of the ecosystem where we're talking about, can we enforce MFA on top of what we're doing from an auth side? Can we manage secrets? And can we separate authorization, the access these secrets have, in shifting from really a static world to a dynamic world? This doesn't just apply to permissions, it also applies to secrets, right? And it's a novel idea where, again, we're saying stop hard coding these things into your CI/CD build process. Stop hard coding them into your websites. Start referring to them dynamically in an organized manner, like policy-based access control is something we do for Britive. A lot of words, but hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, and Jay, I want to add a little more, just a bit more context on that there, because
absolutely.
The problem, and I know we're narrowly focused on secrets governance and the access keys. That is absolutely the key challenge that we're talking about. But even bigger than that, and this again is also what you can see with a Britive analyzer, is the permissions. So if anybody out there has ever worked, and I'm sure you have, right, inside the AWS environment, and you look at the identity and access management policies, yes, they have a lot of great basic templates that you can use, but man, is it easy to put overlapping templates on top of each other, and now you got excessive permissions and you have no idea what those even mean. And now you tie that back to access keys that you thought was just a normal user, and you have no idea that that user actually has administrative access because of those overlapping permissions. Critical problem.
Real quick on that, Jay. Real quick on that. The other move to cloud, and Dom just nailed it. Human users. What about all these non-humans? Non-person identities that are referencing these tokens, API keys. They're the ones using it. Wouldn't you like to know how they're using those secrets, where they're using those secrets, sort of analyzing that effective, access? Who has access to what, and how are they using it? Let's shift from static to dynamic. Summed up nicely.
Yeah, and that actually kind of leads in to where I wanted to go next, right? So I think we've done a really good job, and appreciate the insights and thoughts on what is secret sprawl. Why did secret sprawl become an issue, and really what are the secrets? Let's kind of shift gears and talk about, okay, we've recognized, and actually it sounds like from the audience, 70% have recognized, or at least it's a high priority to understand and address secret sprawl. Let's talk about what customers are doing to address it, right? What are some of the actionable things and some of the steps that customers can take to start addressing it? And then, John, you kind of touched on it. Maybe I'll add another little second part to that question: is how are customers trying to reduce the reliance on static secrets, right? Mm-hmm. So let's talk about how we're first addressing secret sprawl, and then maybe give me some thoughts on what customers are doing to try to move to that dynamic secret space.
Yeah. So I'll kind of kick it off here with, again, just visibility is always where everyone wants to go, whether you're mainly in security. Let me preface that. Developers and builders just want it to work. We got that. But security wants to understand where do all these secrets live? Who has access to them, whether they're humans or non-humans? On top of that, how can we control it? Can we deploy some sort of role-based access model, some sort of attribute-based access model, or hopefully some sort of policy-based attribute model where we can at least gate secrets? Can we have step-up authentication? You want a secret? Cool, give me a justification. So it always follows that normal process of understanding visibility. Where does it start? Vaults, spreadsheets. Oh my goodness, spreadsheets are real. Password protected document.
Oh, I know.
So once we can understand kind of what we're trying to do, let's try to understand how we're using these. What's the use case, right? And then from there, we can say, let's stop hard coding these into a Kubernetes template or a Docker template. Let's see if there's some way we can use an environmental variable to reference via API a secret that's dynamically stored somewhere and managed appropriately. That's the most beautiful story you could have, right? So that's the evolution we tend to see.
Great, thank you. Dom, any thoughts on that? I know that was a really nice summary from John.
I've got a lot of different thoughts on that, but I actually wanted to think about changing gears a little bit and talk about, I'm lucky because I work on a team of experts, right? Now I've got an identity access management expert on our team, and he's written our own proprietary set of scripts. We can go in and look at customers' environments underneath the hood. Not as robust as what you guys do with your analyzer, but much more robust than the AWS or other cloud native analyzer tools. So we can really see and give guidance to our customers. So for us, especially our customer base, we're lucky because they're small right now. So we can help them build the right practices in place, right? So we go through and we look at, okay, what are you doing today? We need to get into basics like rotating the access keys, right? Just getting those taken care of. Then we roll all the way back to DevSecOps. So there's more to it, but that's the short version. I just wanted to also point out what I think I don't want the audience to forget is, yes, I can go into AWS and use my IAM access analyzer or whatever inside whatever cloud environment and get an idea. But if you're in a multi-cloud environment, or if you're using other SaaS applications, you should have a centralized area where you can understand who has access to what, and you can audit that access across those different environments. So I just wanted to put that on the table too, Jay.
Yeah, perfect. No, that's great. I'd love to pivot a little bit here and talk about, okay, we've kind of talked about what customers are doing. I'd love to see if you guys have any good examples of what are some real life, I guess, breaches or real life incidents that were a result of secret sprawl. Let's talk about the end result, right? So, you know, what's happening if customers don't address this, and what are some of the risks they're facing?
Yeah, let me go ahead and share an example here. We'll start with something we kind of relatively understand. This thing I keep beating on is like this idea of a template. You can build a Docker template and it can store static secrets. All right. We kind of understand that it has things in it that we can leverage to compromise someone's environment. What happens when that gets out in the public, right? And it's published on something like Pastebin or, you know, Reddit, for even the love of God. Let's pick on my favorite example a few years back of the hack of Ashley Madison. We're not going to go into the details of how they were hacked, how they were compromised. The key is someone got their, you know, access file of user names, user emails, and a couple of hash passwords, and they posted those on Pastebin. You can probably go out to Pastebin today, still find where those secrets exist. Do you think anybody even thought about maybe rotating those? Maybe the impact this would have of why those are statically stored, or, you know, the impact this would have downstream? I don't even know. Was that like 10 years ago? That's crazy, right? So what attackers do, the point of this is they go and crawl the dark web. They can literally go to Pastebin right now, and I can do a query for API key, access key, password. Anything that's statically stored in these frameworks or templates is available for these attackers. They're only a stone's throw away from then applying that to connecting to your AWS environment, your Kubernetes environment, because by no fault of their own, somehow this was uploaded. They do a quick crawl of the dark web, and all of a sudden I have access to all these keys. It's not very hard to figure out how to leverage those to steal what you want.
Man, and Jay, I'm just going to jump into that, right? Because I want to bring up another topic for our whole audience out there. You really should take some time to look into the Britive portfolio, because something we're not going to have time to get into too much today, but that John just hinted at, is this notion of zero standing privileges. That's why I love Britive. Nobody matches what they're doing in the marketplace. And I can't emphasize that enough. And I've been in this space a long time, looking at all kinds of solutions. So just the point is, nobody and no thing should have standing permissions inside your cloud environment, period. I'm going to make that statement up front. Now, I know that's not easy to solve for manually, but it sure is if you choose a platform like Britive. So I just wanted to, I know it's a big topic, but I wanted to bring it up.
That's a perfect example, because what we're trying to do, again, and the cloud gives us this functionality. Why are we saying this? If you can separate authentication and authorization, it's huge. What do I mean? I will give you all literally right now my login to salesforce.com. You want to look at my reports? Great. I know some competitors would like to. The key is I don't have the ability to create new users. I do not have the permissions to do things. So if we separate credentials and we manage secrets the way we're talking about now, who can log in, and then we separate the authorization of what permissions they have from a single platform with the visibility and analytics to understand how those are being used, that's the big deal.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And you know, I think sometimes we almost we talk about secret sprawl, and obviously, you know, we've talked about both human and non-human, but I think sometimes we get stuck on just focusing on one or the other. And I think, you know, when you look at it, you have to really look at both sides of it, because, you know, like you said, John, your human user access to Salesforce, you know, there's just as much data that can be compromised and that attackers are going to go after with the human use case. And I think that's, you know, that's where a lot of companies start. They think about let's protect the human use case, right? But as you mentioned, you know, there's so much more that can be, you know, gathered from those non-human ones. And I think part of that is because they aren't often nobody pays attention to the non-human accounts as much as to what they're doing. That makes sense, right? We kind of see that you know, we kind of log and we can look and see what the humans are doing. We try to focus on those, but those non-human accounts.
Let's ask the audience, right? Jay. Let's ask the audience how they approach this non-human centric sort of thing.
Yep. And as we do that, I'm just going to add a bit of color while you pull up the poll, because I think it's really important for the audience to understand. Again, you know, the front door, there's so much more to a good secure environment than just blocking the front door. And we know companies have SSO and single sign-on and multi-factor authentication solutions blocking the front door. Great, good work. but that doesn't at all solve the permissions issue internally inside the environment, let alone the standing privileges and all that kind of stuff, let alone who's using access keys that are 3 or 4 years old and why. So
Yep.
let you do the poll now.
All right, let's do it. Let's see. So I got to just put a poll here. So how are you managing secrets today in your build process? Let's see. You know, we've got a vault, a spreadsheet, we've got other. I'm just kind of curious, you know, what's going on out there. Just give it a couple of minutes here. Interesting. I'm not going to give it away yet.
I want to see this spread.
I want to see this too, because you know, John mentioned it in passing, and the spreadsheets is a real thing, and that's unfortunate, but it is a reality.
Hey, we put a password on it. The password's like 20 years old, but it protects the spreadsheet itself.
And it's shared.
It's true.
And it's shared
true.
Across the ages.
All right, let's go ahead. It looks like we've got a pretty good result here. So we actually have more than half, almost 60% are other. So maybe I'd love to, you know, if you're comfortable, you can throw it in the private chat to the team. I'd love to know what the other would be. But, you know, interesting. We actually have a couple of spreadsheets. That's quite common to be honest, right? We kind of put them down on a spreadsheet, we lock it away. It's a simple method. And then obviously vaulting, right? So that ability to have that centralized vault. So yeah, interesting take. And you know, we'll maybe get some more. I don't know if anybody's put it in the chat yet, but I'd be interested to see what the other options are.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of what we're seeing in this emergence of, you know, DevSecOps, right? So I think we've kind of, you hear this term, this, you know, shift left, right? The idea that rather than trying to bolt on security further down in the DevOps process, it's really building security in to the process from the beginning. So I'm curious, you know, Dom, are you kind of seeing this become a priority, this idea of this shift left and building security in from the beginning at customers? Is that gaining traction in your customer base?
It is. I could talk an hour on it, and I know that we're short on time, so I'll be as brief as possible. But, you know, we're lucky at Eden Data because we get to work with startups, right? And they are all starting from scratch and building cool stuff. So for us, they are already born in the cloud. They already are a DevOps shop, right? And what we love is that we want to show for them, hey, if you can really nail that shift left idea, which means putting security way upstream in the dev lifecycle, including image management, you know, configuration management, all that kind of stuff, man, downstream is much easier. Vulnerability management, patch management, threat management is a cakewalk if you can take care of that. So that's really the coaching we're giving. And I know I could talk a lot more about it, but I want to give John a minute here to jump in.
No, that's exactly it, right? And the point is we want the builders to build fast. We don't want to be a problem. So what we introduce is this concept of, I even read a comment there, reading in the code base. Okay, put a code base in there that references a variable. That variable is stored in Britive. We have authentication process to ensure who's checking out what and recording those fetches of those type of secrets or whatever they are. It's just putting a process around what you're doing.
Just awesome.
Yep. That's great. Cool. So I think we'll do one more poll, and then I want to get to some customer questions because a couple have come in, and I think that's important. As we said, we want to encourage and you know, hear from our audience as well. So kind of on this shift left, right? Just quickly want to launch a poll, right? Who is, you know, starting to make that shift left, so to speak? I'm curious for our audience out there, you know, who has started to take that journey. You know, it seems like it makes sense, right? We've seen with the SolarWinds, you know, breach last year or 2 years, right? That was actually done during the dev process, right? So I think that may have been where that started to you know, really gain steam, this idea. And you know what, I'm going to go ahead. We've got really good response here. I'm going to share this. It looks like that's top of mind for most everybody on the call, which is great, right? And that's kind of what I'm seeing as well in the industry, right? Building in and trying to get to this idea of, you know, DevSecOps is really started to become important. I think it goes back to kind of what Dom, you and both John were saying at the beginning. I think before these processes were matured, people were just trying to get stuff done, right? And it was easier just to, you know, think about security later so I can get my job done. But I think we are seeing that this shift to left is something that's getting focus, and that you know, is definitely not going anywhere. So
And
okay.
I'll give just 10 seconds on that. The reason I'm so excited about working with our clients is they all embrace that. They all get it, and they just like, let's figure out how to do it while still doing business at the same time. So it's just a killer environment. And if everybody out there can start getting that mindset, hey, if we can start looking left, as somebody who cares about national security and corporate security, if you guys start doing that, you're going to have a more secure enterprise. So anyway, back to you guys.
Yeah.
Build it in from the beginning, right?
Build it in from the beginning.
Discipline and working out, man. Just stick with it.
Absolutely. All right. So let's actually got a couple of questions that have come in. So I'll just throw this out to either one of you, whoever wants to jump in if you have some thoughts. So as a developer, how can I balance security and productivity for my DevOps team? So basically saying, hey, it always seems like security slows us down. So I think the question is, you know, as we talked about, there's kind of this mindset that maybe I need to move fast and security slows me down. So kind of how would you say implementing security in the DevOps process can you know, be both productive and increase security?
John, I'll let you take a stab first.
Yeah, so like I said, just keep doing what you're doing. The only difference is like step one, stop hard coding stuff. That's even bad practice in development. If you do that, hey, I'm just saying. Step two is how do we reference these variables and make it really more secure? And that's leveraging tools that exist in the enterprise that focus on this. Nothing wrong with open source. Don't get me wrong. We love it. That's the first place everyone goes to. But think about things like DR. Think about things like when you do get compromised and someone's going to find that single throat to choke, what answer do you have? I did all the best practices. We used environment variables. We used enterprise recognized tools to secure what we're trying to do. And it's not that much more effort to just, you know, work with the security team and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, just the short version from my perspective is it's about a partnership, right? And it's really about developers. And that's, again, what's cool about our customer base, right? There's not a challenge between development and security, right? It's all part of the game. And so having it as a culture, number one, and number two, establishing a reference architecture that developers can operate within and use to then go and roll out all their stuff. So it takes a little upfront work to define those standards, but once you do, now you're giving them the flexibility and that frictionless environment to push stuff out.
Yeah.
Perfect. No, thank you. All right. Another question from the audience. Let's see. So why would my team care about secrets governance? We're blocking access to our front door with MFA and SSO, so nobody can really get in and abuse those secrets. Any thoughts on that?
I think Dom answered that. If you want to double down on that, Dom.
How do you know where all your secrets are? That's my question back to that. And I mean that really with great respect, just because we've heard that many, many times. And then again, with our own tools, our own capabilities and experience beyond our customer base. Frankly, respectfully, it's impossible to know where all your access keys are. And we get it that you got their front door locked down, no doubt about it. But what about CLI access, right? So how is that being governed? How are APIs communicating with your environment? How often are those keys rotated, right? Who has access to those keys? So it's a big, big topic to me. And for the sake of time, John, I'll give you a little bit of shot.
Yeah, no, even to that point, right? And I wouldn't disagree. There's a ton of money invested in the human side of the front door.
Yep.
The emergence of the cloud is the backside, which not even is a door sometimes. It might just be a window where an API does a quick check and an update of a report. How are you managing that? Who's controlling that? Who's watching that? So it's not as simple as just humans anymore.
And taking a step further, right? Let's say that I'm targeting your organization and I've done my homework and I see you're a developer and I hit you with a fish. You've got trusted access. You passed SSO, MFA. You're in the environment, right? I'm on your machine and now I have trusted access. What can I do? That's the question answer.
I'm going to create a new role in AWS that allows me to assume role, and I'm going to do things as a Lambda function, which no one's even looking at. So
yep. And you're not even monitoring for it. Not even monitoring for it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I was kind of glad you guys touched on, especially John, the point about, SSO and MFA, fantastic. You got to have them, right? Yep. But that's very human centric. It doesn't really, as you said, address the service identity, service principles, and access keys. So, Okay, so we got one more question here. I think we got time for one more coming in from the audience. So interesting question. How do you protect against the developers changing their minds, essentially going around, right? How do you protect against developers changing their mind? And then in parentheses, similar to protecting planes against pilots. I like that
Look,
analogy.
John, I'll just take maybe 15 seconds on it, right? That's with great respect. Love the question, first of all, but that is your standard cybersecurity challenge. And that means that you have to have governance, you got to have layered security, you have access management, all these different components to control changes in the environment and what people are allowed to do. So developers, we love them, right? Absolutely, they should be rolling out code all over the place, but they also need to be constrained. Right, so we have to put in the right constraints around them. That's how you solve that problem. Now, there's more to it for sure. I understand, but John, I want to give you a moment.
Yeah, real quick, man. I love this story really quick. So like about, 60 years ago, there used to be this postal service delivery agent that used to fly planes into Alaska to deliver mail. He had a glass of whiskey and a cigar that would dictate his altitude and his pitch and yaw, because when the whiskey would tilt, he would know where he's at. And when he would finish smoking his cigar, he'd know when to drop in. What am I trying to say, right? The archaic way of doing things was very manual. Guess how advanced planes are today? Almost all of it is flown by automation and software. That's eventually where we're getting to, and that's how you shift developers' mindsets. Most people today that live in the SaaS world don't know anything about how I used to hard code stuff to get things done. So evolving the automation and technology by which we're giving them is the key to solving that problem.
Big time. Yep.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. I got one more question, just because I'm really enjoying the audience participation here. This is a bit of a long question, so I think I'm just going to pull out part of it for time's sake. But we certainly can follow up with this attendee afterwards. So it says, I'd be grateful if you'd elaborate on how to efficiently secure access and protect secrets in multi-cloud environments, and how to align policies and configurations. So called out here is AWS, Oracle, and Azure. Just curious if you have
John,
any
I'm
thoughts on
certainly
that.
going to hand that to you, but my first answer is, the analyzer to get it orientation, and then John, microphone's yours.
Yeah, not every cloud is created equal. I can tell you that definitively. AWS, great for app stack, build stuff, move fast. Oracle, great for storage. And what was the other one? Azure, awesome directory. Maybe you build apps there. The key is to have a unified access model of approaching all those. How do you do that? What we do at Britive is we drive via API driven. So can we create a standardized abstraction layer that allows us to understand how each cloud works? From there, on our back end, we can integrate with the rest of our ecosystem to dictate who should have access to what. Again, fundamental idea. Building in the APIs to pull the levers, whether it's on authorization or whether it's on secrets, exists then within our world, where we can control things like joiner, mover, leaver process. That may be done by some tool, not us. What we're doing is just becoming that abstraction layer of unifying this multi-cloud world in a standardized way, right? Whether that's reporting, whether that's giving secrets, whether that's giving you a permission like global admin and taking that away, whether that's manipulating compartments within OCI. I'm an expert here. We can talk about session management there, where you don't even need a user account within Oracle. So it's this sort of understanding the new cloud world and how each of these are not created equal, and leveraging each of those to accomplish the task of focusing on use cases, and then bringing that to a world like CLI, bringing that to the automation layer. That is the key.
That's awesome. Jay, I want to just wrap up, and that I don't even want to do this, but that was such a cool comment. I'm going to go back to the developer thing just real quickly, just 10 seconds.
Please.
So I talked about, layered security, cybersecurity. It's just the right way we approach it, right? All these different components. So we should always assume that we need to monitor the access and the credentials of everybody in the company. And I know that's a challenge. I know that's not easy to do. But to answer that question about, how do you handle a developer who just needs to move or, get around things, which they do, right? Which is what they will do. You do that not only with good constraints, but also you, as part of your program, you should have good user monitoring, right? What are your users doing inside your cloud environment? What are your service accounts doing inside your user environment? Build a baseline of that, then understand what deviations are from there. Now you have a proactive posture.
Yep. I have a whole new talk track about this too, and Jay knows it. He gets to listen in on it, where I talk about data lakes. One of the problems before was, how do you analyze all this data? Guess what? Remember my story about my postal service delivery man? We don't live in that world anymore. We have ways to analyze these advanced data sets using advanced data analytics to really correlate activity using data warehousing and data lakes. Anyways, a story for another day if anybody wants to call me.
Hey, there's many more of these scheduled, John. So maybe data lakes will be on the next agenda. So, but well, excellent. Well, hey guys, I want to wrap up here soon. Allow our wonderful audience who's been very engaged, which is awesome. We appreciate it. Wrap up here soon. Before we do that, though, I do want to announce our team on the back end has been looking across engagement and randomly picking our winner for the on cloud shoots. So I will just go ahead and announce our winner, and really excited is Joseph Snow. So congratulations, Joseph. We'll be in contact to get you that information you need to get those ordered. But across the board, regardless of if you were the winner of the giveaway or not, we just really appreciate the audience participation today. Dominic, really appreciate you giving your feedback and just perspective, working with your customers, and John, bringing your cloud expertise and identity expertise to the discussion today. And just I wanted to thank everybody for participating, both John, Dami, and the audience. And just we want to, for our audience, want to say keep in touch and join us. We're going to continue to have these. So if you wanted to connect and get on the list for any future talk tracks that we have around cloud security, there's the information on the screen. So we'll go ahead and just wrap up here in a minute, but overall, appreciate the time of everybody involved. So thank you.
Excellent. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.